Welcome to It's a Woman's World, a show which discusses any and all topics under the sun from a woman's point of view. Here's today's moderator, Dr. Susan Strauss.
Welcome to It's a Woman's World. We're delighted that you've decided to join us today. We've got a phenomenal guest as well as our usual phenomenal co-hosts. So let me first introduce our co-host. At the end here, we have the ever-famous Nadia Jordana. Hi, Nadia.
Hi, happy to be here today.
On April 1st, no less. But none of this is a trick, believe me. And we've also got Rashida Fisher. And Rashida, this is the first time for her to be a co-host with us, and she's working on her PhD in mental health. Rashida, we're delighted to have you.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's our joy. And the ever-faithful Janita Flowers is also with us today.
Good to see you, Susan.
Good to see you. And our very special guest is Jennifer Kern Collins. And Jennifer is an author. She is a speaker, and she is a professional coach. And recently, her new book came out called The Drama-Free Way. We're glad you're here, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here with you ladies.
And we're anxious to hear about what you do and about drama.
So as we begin the discussion, could you just give us a brief definition of what you mean by drama? Yes.
Yeah, that's a great question because I think a lot of people have different ideas about what drama is. And for me, I think it's actually very misunderstood in our culture because I think people tend to think of drama as sort of like an unnecessary manufactured chaos or sort of like an exaggerated response to seemingly benign events. And that's kind of how it expresses itself. For me, I think there's a deeper layer that we need to talk about. And so my definition of drama is that it's a wound-based social survival method that we use to seek to meet our needs, to be seen and heard, and to feel like we matter.
Can you say a little bit more about this wound-based? What does that mean? Maybe give some examples of what kind of wound from childhood, for example?
Yes. Well, interestingly enough, there are 3 core human wounds that we all have. And I think everything, like there are other iterations of woundedness that we can carry, but this comes from the research done by Dr. Mario Martinez, who's a psychoneuroimmunologist, and he has done research across the world, so across cultures, across genders, across age groups, and what he found is that there are 3 core human wounds, he calls them archetypal wounds, that are a result of just us being tribal creatures. And here's what the 3 wounds are. They're abandonment, shame, and betrayal.
And those 3 could almost overlap into one individual, right?
Absolutely. In fact, I think it kind of almost picture it like a Venn diagram where they have overlapping and shared space with each other, but they still have their own unique quality of energy and components to them. But when you think about if you have a wound and someone wants to come and poke into your wound, you're going to have that kind of exaggerated response or a protective response. And I think that that's the foundation for drama, but because it comes out in more of an emotional capacity, it's not the same as how we would think of like a physical wound.
Would you, listening to you speak, makes me think, could it be possible that you would see somebody with, say, a borderline personality disorder be more likely to display drama?
I think that is a very great example. Yep, absolutely. So, and I think borderline personality is grounded in an abandonment wound.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Just having a significant history of trauma, and particularly interpersonal trauma, which really speaks to all of those archetypal, kind of wounds that you're speaking of, that when you are hurt by people that are designed or charged with helping you and protecting you, and that doesn't happen, it really changes the way that you see yourself in the world. And so I really appreciate your definition that it is wound-based response, because I think we oftentimes don't appreciate that. We often see it as very superficial. That the acting out is
That's
very...
exactly right, because you're only seeing what's on the surface.
Absolutely.
And so I love what you just said, Rashida, about it like it's an interpersonal thing. And I think because it's so foundational, it comes from that developmental tribal experience, it also then becomes intrapersonal.
Yes.
So we learn to treat ourselves in the ways that others treated us. So we learn to abandon ourselves. We learn to shame ourselves. We learn to betray ourselves, not listening to our own intuitions and our instincts, not following what feels right for us, but being so busy trying to take care of what's happening out there that we neglect what's happening in here, or we make it wrong or bad. And then of course that's naturally going to lead into behaviors that are out of alignment with the true spirit of who we are, and that comes out as drama.
So often we think of it as a behavioral issue within families.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Jennifer, you are a speaker and a coach, and you have this book, The Drama-Free Way. Tell me how this all comes together, a little about your coaching background, and how did you land on this book?
Oh, those are, I could be here with you ladies all day with that question. So to try to be succinct, so my personal story, I did grow up with a lot of drama, which of course is, what do they say, you teach what you most need to learn. So this has been part of my own journey. And I actually grew up with parents with personality disorders, borderline being one of them, narcissistic personality being one of them, addictions in the household, divorce, so that abandonment piece. I was moved around a lot as a kid. So
I read that on your website like 15 times.
oh, it's something I can remember how many houses, 15
Can't
houses,
imagine.
4 different families. In K through 12, I went to 9 different schools.
Yes.
Yep. So, and by the time I was 16 years old, my living arrangement with my mom and stepdad was not working out, and so I actually ended up finishing high school living with 2 different families. So you can imagine the kind of self-image that I developed and how I started treating myself was really a lot of drama coming out of that, and a lot of chaos, which led to a lot of really unhealthy behaviors and unhealthy choices. Doing some eating disorders. I got involved with, of course, like drugs and alcohol and boys who were not very nice to me, and a lot of those kinds of things. And even like those are sort of the extremes, but that showed up also in more subtle ways, like procrastination,
Yes.
which is a self-abandonment kind of thing. Perfectionism, which comes from self-shaming. Right, and also not taking myself seriously, not knowing that I mattered. So I would tell people, oh yeah, I'll be there, and then just never show up. Because it didn't even occur to me that my presence
That they
Matter.
might
made a
care
difference,
if
that
you
they might
showed up
care.
or not.
Yep.
They wouldn't miss you anyway, so.
That's right,
what the
because
heck?
I don't matter,
Yeah.
right? So that's a part of that belief system that comes out of those tribal wounds.
And it's so insidious, isn't it? I mean, it just sort of is there and it creeps up, and then all of a sudden there's sort of the outright symptom, and yet it's been brewing for all that time.
Yes, yes, and that's part of why, for me, when I wanted to write this book, and this book, I mean, to answer your question, came from recognizing all of the different pieces or the components where I see drama coming from my own experience, but then also, from my family history, and then also from working with clients over a number of years. What I started to recognize was that there are thought patterns that are really common that drive drama. And so, like you're saying, with things kind of being under the surface, but then they crop up, it starts with the thinking. So this book I wanted to write as a thought management guide to navigating the chaos, both internal and external, in order to really thrive authentically.
What I think of is that the drama, while there are negative reactions to it actually meets the need that the person is looking for. They are being seen, they are being heard. Although the response is not always positive, their need is being met. And so changing our thought pattern really also allows us to expect different responses from people and different responses from ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely. And that, to me, what's underlying that, because the need does get met, and I think if you don't know how to get those needs met in a higher quality way, and from a place of more love and peacefulness and engagement and collaboration and some of those better feeling ways of engaging with people, drama becomes the default, because you're right, that's if that's the only way you know to get those needs met, that's just what you're going to do.
When there's a negative response to the drama, how does that affect the person acting out the drama? Does that help them back off of that, or is that? I think that's not the case. What would you say?
I think it depends on what the response is, but I think a lot of times it is a reinforcement.
Do you think it's possible for some people that would be caught up in the drama, as much as it's painful, also find that it's comfortable because that's what they've known and that's where they've lived? And when maybe they even start to heal, I know it's your Billy Rack too, that even when they start to heal and step out of that drama box, that it's almost fearful because they're stepping into an area that they're not quite sure how to act in.
Absolutely, that's a really, really great question, great point, is that because as human beings we become habituated to everything that's happening in our internal world. And some of that's biochemical, and some of that is just about the neurological pathways that form and become practiced, right? And then when that's your default state, when that's the paradigm that you live in, anything that starts to shift the energy is going to put you off your homeostasis, right? And the body, and this a human system, we always want to come back to what we know. But that's why you hear about people who, like they're never happy unless they're miserable. Well, but that's
true.
It's totally true, right? And I think in the absence of understanding that and recognizing something else is possible, I can still get my needs met in other ways. You know, there are higher ways of operating and functioning in life that are available. But then when you start to move in that direction, it is scary.
It's scary. And I've read as well that that there is some actual anatomical as well as physical changes in the brain that almost keeps you stuck there and makes it all the more difficult to get out of that drama.
Now, isn't there an addictive element to it?
Yeah, absolutely. Because every thought has a chemical associated with it. And when that gets released over and over and over again, and we become habituated to those chemicals, and then of course it floods into the body, and then the body gets used to that state. There's another layer of this too, though, and I think that there's a vibrational quality.
Absolutely.
Which has a little bit more of an ethereal energy to it rather than a physical chemical component.
Can you say more about that?
Yeah, so everything is energy, right? Everything everywhere is made up of energy. Including us. And so each thought that we have, each emotional state has a certain quality of vibration or a certain energetic frequency. So the higher the frequency, the higher vibration, the better we feel. The lower the frequency, the lower the vibration, the worse we feel. So when we're thinking thoughts that are higher quality or higher vibration, we feel better. And so the drama thinking is naturally going to be a lower quality, lower vibration, but then the body gets used to that vibrational state too. And that's happening at a cellular level, it's happening at an energetic level.
So just to sort of lighten this up, because we're going deep here, tell me about your win. Okay, so you had a lot of trauma as a child, and then here we are professionally where you have this book. What was the transition period? How did you sort of get yourself on track and be able to win and survive and overcome the trauma that you experienced as a child?
That's a great question, and it's, I mean, to be honest, it's probably still a work in progress.
We all are.
It's something that happened over a number of years. I think the common denominators were having people who loved me and people who were committed to me and could see me, the truth of my spirit and who I am, separate from the behaviors. So I always tell people, if you know someone in your life who has a lot of drama, that person needs more love, not more distancing, because it is that love, that care, that compassion on a consistent basis that can help pull them through that they can start to see themselves more clearly. So I think there was definitely that component.
Let me just interject for one question about that. You said you had somebody that was able to do that. did you ever feel the need to push them away so that you could stay, I'm going to say stuck, and that maybe isn't the best word, but did you ever feel the need then to, no, I don't want you here right now? Because
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And especially in the more, the lower moments, that's when I would withdraw and want to distance myself from other people and kind of be in my own little cocoon, and not have them, well, first of all, see me in that kind of state, but also not want to try to be pulled in out of it.
And also creating drama that creates the distance.
Oh, sure.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
then I interrupted
No,
there
that's
because
okay.
I wanted
That's okay.
to find out about that and how that fit then with your transformation, as Janita was asking.
Yeah, so I think the transformation came from, at some point I recognized, hang on a second, the common denominator here is me. And if I want something to be changed, if I want this life that I think I want and that I think I could have, I have to do something different. I have to change. And that's when I actually went back to school, got my master's degree, decided I wanted to be the person who I wanted to attract more into my life. And at that time it was focused on meeting a man, right? But I mean, just now in general, I think about who's the person I want to be to attract the kind of people I want to have around me, to attract the kind of experiences I want to have. So, but it was that thought that made me realize, oh, if something's going to change, it has to start here. And then resources started to show up. My uncle sent me a USB with some audio recordings that were helpful for me. My dad sent me a book in the mail. I mean, I met a woman randomly at a church that I never go to. And she was new and I was new and we connected and she introduced me to resources. So it's sort of like once I opened myself up to making a change, you know, whatever higher energies are out there came in to support me by sending me people and opportunities to tap into resources that could help support my transformation.
And that's that frequency, you know, that you were talking about, that attracting the energy, like-minded or, you know, kind of kindred spirits.
Yes.
You know, there's an energy to that as well. And you said something about, you know, kind of seeing and wanting to be the person that you kind of knew yourself to be.
Yeah.
And really seeing that you had to take ownership of that. I think that comes, and in my own personal experience, with encouragement. And to infuse courage to be different or to be more authentic is really important. And I think that's where those caring relationships come from. They create or infuse courage in people to support that kind of transformation.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely.
And I think that there's something, so I mean, for me, whenever I'm talking about this kind of transformation and what's happening in your life and in your system, I think talking about your unique spirit or your soul is kind of part of that conversation. And so what you're saying is sort of, if there are people around you who can see you and support the truth of who you are and kind of infuse that courage and that encouragement, even if we don't get it yet on the human level, so our spirit is absorbing that, and then that energy gets translated because, you know, we're not separate. We're body, mind, spiritual beings. And so I think sometimes the spirit can be holding that for us while the human part is like catching up and working to that and then working on closing that gap.
Yeah.
Do you ever find, when you're talking about the spirit and the energy, do you find people that might go like this to you because, hey, that's a little bit out there, that's a little bit ethereal, I don't know if we can get into it, sounds like woo-woo stuff. Not to me, mind you, I like all that, but I was just curious that that isn't always mainstream thinking. So what responses do you get from that?
I do get some of that. If I'm picking up on a sense of somebody might not be necessarily responsive to that kind of language, then I'll talk more from the science perspective because it's really all the same thing, right? Science talks about energy, spirituality talks about energy, just maybe not in the same language. So I find that I'll adapt my language, especially when I'm working with people in corporations, for example. We're going to talk more about how effective they are. We're going to talk more about what's happening in the brain and the science behind how they're thinking, and then how that leads to their results, as opposed to talking about them living in alignment with their soul's divine purpose.
You're gonna scare them away.
Right?
And some, like you said, corporations like scientists or engineers
Yes,
or somebody
yes.
would be much more probably into that scientific inquiry rather than
A little easier to get a handle on
Yeah.
what you're getting across
Yeah.
that way. Sure.
Absolutely.
So you say you're working with clients. Tell me a little about what you're doing with your clients and what type of clients would call you or engage with you for whatever change or transformation they're looking for.
I think I have clients all across the board. I work with men and women. I work from ages 20s up to 60s, people making transitions, people just wanting to experience more joy in life. So there's not really any particular niche. What I would say is most common is people who know there's something more. People who are ready to go to the next level of their own potentiality, and who have kind of exhausted all of their resources in terms of what they can do. And what I help them do is shift into the be, do, have paradigm, where we're focusing on aligning the energies of their mind, body, and spirit, so that they can live their best lives, fulfill their higher purpose, really be in harmony, more active harmony with the world around them. And as they're coming into that space of alignment, as they're raising their vibration, thinking more positive thoughts, we can talk about this from a lot of different angles. As they're doing that, the world around them is naturally responding and changing. I have seen relationships transform. I have seen people start to attract more abundance into their lives. I have seen people leave their current job and go out and start whatever their business or whatever they're doing, like really come into living more in a sense of their purpose. But to me, it's all kind of a one-stop shop, which is finding this space of aligning all of your energies, and then everything flows. But I think there's a skill set needed in order to understand how it works in the brain, how it works with your body, how it works with your thought patterns, what's happening with your emotional state, and how to guide that. But then once that content is there, people go, oh, I get it. And now they have a skill set that they can apply. And so that's really what I'm providing for them.
So my question then is, it would seem to me, correct me if I'm wrong, that the clients that you would be working with must be at a point where they're ready to take that leap and not caught up still into their own mental health issues of depression or borderline or whatever. So they've got to be at the precipice, basically, and ready to trust you.
Ready to make a change.
Yeah. Is that right?
Absolutely. They're ready to make a change. They know that their way isn't working anymore, and they're open to trying something new and trying something that is not necessarily linear and predictable, because the work that I do is not, let me lay out a plan for you. It's let's put some practices into place and see how it works for you personally.
Could you give some examples of that?
Of
some of these practices, when you said you don't do it linearly, what do you mean then? What practices?
So one practice, of course, would be a very common one is meditation.
Okay.
And meditation is not something where you get in and you use a plan, right? It's something where you go into your internal space, and there are a lot of different ways to meditate. What I invite my clients into is some future visioning, that kind of thing, getting into a space of feeling good, and I teach them how to do that, how to work with themselves on the inside, because when you're feeling good, you're more resourceful, your brain works better, you're enjoying your days, and from that vibrational point of attraction, you tend to attract more things that support you feeling good.
And how do you go ahead.
Do you work with people on both sides of the drama? Let's say you were talking about people who are ready to make a change, who are perhaps creating drama in their family circle. What about a person who maybe a family member or somehow involved with someone creating drama, who would like not to have that drama in their life?
Good question.
What would be a wonderful, nice, kind, loving way of distancing yourself from the unwanted drama. What do you do in that situation?
Without feeling guilty.
Without feeling a lot of different things.
Well, first thing is take care of your own energy first, right? So that you're not getting sucked into the drama, because we know that's a slippery slope, right?
That's
It's so
the phrase,
easy to get over there
sucked
and want to like take care of it and manage it and make it stop so we can feel better. So I say take care of yourself first. When you're in a place of feeling good, and then you can stay connected with the truth of who the other person is and not get seduced by the facade of the drama, then I say the first thing is validate, validate, validate. Drama wants to be seen, heard, and feel like it's matters. So, I recently had a loved one come to me and was very upset about something, and I thought, okay, how am I going to play this? And in that moment, I decided to say, wow, I really let you down. Yeah, you did, and blah, 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 blah. I said, oh, I'm really sorry. I had no idea that was the impact on you. So just take ownership, acknowledge what's happening for them, and that just dies it down, because then the person can feel seen and heard, and they know that they matter. If I had gone in and said, yeah, but don't you know why I did it? Or, but you this and that and the other, right? That just fuels it. Right, so being in a space of compassion and care, which isn't always easy, and that's why I say this is some of the hardest work that we can do, right? But when you come in from your own space, of alignment with your authentic self, of coming with a caring heart, it's easier to do that validation. And I think a lot of times too, just out in the world, you'll see people who you can tell they've got some internal drama going on. And even just to give them a compliment and say, that color you're wearing looks really great on you today. Or wow, I really like your hair, or whatever, just any kind of compliment. And people shift, even just to smile at them. Right, and this comes back to us being tribal creatures. And so when we're giving out more positive energy and really looking for who's over there, right? Who is that inside that human body, right? And it doesn't matter if it's someone you meet in the elevator, or somebody in your home, or someone in your workplace, right? The more you can do that, the more positive energy goes out, and the more we
and everything
are connected.
In society right now is going against all of those needs, and so I think we have to work a little bit harder.
Yes, I do too, and we're running out of time here, unfortunately. Anybody have any final question for Jennifer?
So what's next for you?
And that was
in a quick sentence.
In a quick sentence, what's next for me in terms of?
Are you speaking? You're on a book tour
I'm
throughout
speaking,
the city?
Okay, so exciting. What's next for me is next weekend I am actually flying out to Portland, Oregon, because the Drama Free Way is a 2017 Benjamin Franklin National Book Award.
Oh, good for you.
Winner.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So that's a fun one. I love parties and galas anyway, so I'll fly out for that.
Congratulations.
So very excited for that, and then we'll see what's next and continue on the journey.
Well, that's pretty big.
It's
Yes.
very big. And
Thank
congratulations to your journey from childhood to where you are now.
Thank
and
you.
you deserve a big hoorah for that. And thanks for sharing all of this.
I appreciate it.
And thank
ladies.
you for joining us today for It's a Woman's World. We'll see you next time.